People get hurt. Race veterans Holly Brooks and Clint McCool tell us why they still keep coming back. And the sport of politics. Anchorage's oldest mayor weighs in on the city's newest mayor.
Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by Kupik Corporation and Spenard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come. Bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to Frontiers. Mount Marathon, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The 4th of July, Alaska style. And while the race has come and gone, there's still a lot to celebrate. 100 years of pushing into new frontiers in the sport of mountain running. And KTVA's very own Emilie Carlson decided that she was going to make Mount Marathon her personal frontier this year. She'll talk about her training for her very first run shortly. But just so that there is no confusion, this program was recorded before the runners even set foot on the mountain. But as Emilie Carlson explains, some things are just timeless.
3,022 feet above the town of Seward, Mount Marathon provides a breathtaking view of Resurrection Bay. Perhaps the first person to reach the summit back in the 1900s, when the rough and tumble frontier town was just half built. Lookouts watched for steamships. 112 years later, you gotta look out for runners hurtling their bodies down the mountain. A test of endurance, strength, even sanity.
When you cross that finish line, it's like, oh my God, why did I do this again? Something like that.
Flip Foldacker asks himself that question every year, but continues to put his body through the torturous experience.
And then next thing you know, you're looking at the plaques on the wall going, this is 35 years. Should I stop?
But why would he, when so many great moments happen because of the race? It's how Flip met wife Patty. She asked him to take her up the mountain. He never showed up.
No.
No, thank you. But
His friend did, though. Should have married his friend. No.
If the mountain could talk, it might have a few tales of its own, including how the race started. The urban legend goes like this. 2 men walk into a bar. After a few drinks, one dares another to run up and back in an hour.
The bet, if it happened sometime before 1915, and it wasn't a big thing. I started in 1914.
Doug Capras spent years chasing down the facts.
I'll spend hours down here, and I'll get a paragraph.
But these old newspapers of the Seward Historical Society provide few clues.
I mean, it's amazing the misinformation about Seward history that existed.
We do know the first documented race was in 1915 on the 3rd of July. Just 5 contestants ran up and down the mountain. The winner finished in an hour and 2 seconds. But what about that bar bet?
And the first race was run just by a couple of people. It wasn't a crowd or anything like that. The paper didn't cover it or anything. There must have been a lot of barroom bets in Seward at the time.
However it started, the race continued to draw excitement, especially when the 4th of July race moved to accommodate the growing crowds.
The chamber changed it to Sunday. And he was at the Jesse Lee home, a Methodist. And so he said, I can't run on Sunday.
Ephraim Kamelkoff followed his conscience. The boarding school kid bowed out of the 27 race. Gossipers in town whispered the favorite was all hype anyway.
In 1928, he became the first one to register for the race. And in 1928, he won the race. And then he won it in 1929, and he won it in 1930.
This newly discovered picture, the first and the only haunting image of Ephraim. He died of tuberculosis shortly after. Many believed it was Mount Marathon that killed him, forever in Seward known as Ephraim's curse. In 1963, the first female crossed the finish line. Jane Trigg collapsed at the end, but she set the precedent. From then on, women raced right next to the men, but not all of them liked it.
There was some guys with a little too much machoism going on that, you know, they wouldn't get out of the ladies' race.
I don't think you would have let a girl pass you.
Oh, of course I would have.
The men didn't scare Patty. After her first race in 1980, she let a pack of women right past them.
We were nice. Carmen Young said the F word many times. I was so shocked.
In 1985, Patty won Mount Marathon. It was the first time women raced separately. Patty says most people thought it was a joke.
And the race is for the guys, and that's why they had the guys after the girls, because they felt if they had the guys race, everybody would go home and nobody would watch the girls.
4 years later, Patty had two girls of her own, identical twins Denali and Ruby, who grew up on Mount Marathon.
I do yell at them if I see them on the race. Here comes Mom. Oh my God, my mom's gonna beat me.
The twins quickly learned the last name Foldacker comes with the pressure to succeed.
Like as a kid, I didn't want it to be because I didn't want to be anything like my parents, but I couldn't see it any other way now.
Denali is engaged to three-time Mount Marathon winner Eric Strabel. Her life revolves around the race, so much so. She timed her wedding so it didn't interfere with the mountain. Wearing her mom's headpiece, Denali said, "I do exactly 1 week before this year's race." On July 4th, the Strabels will tackle Mount Marathon as man and wife, just like Denali's parents did after they were married 33 years ago.
History is one way to develop an appreciation for this race, but also running it is probably the best way. And our Emilie Carlson is taking on that challenge. Now, we want to point out that we are recording this before the interview, so we don't know how you're going to do, and we'll be anxious to find out. What made you decide that you wanted to run this race, Emilie?
You know, I was in Seward last year. I covered it for work, and it was magical. It was really cool seeing the racers go up the mountain and down the mountain, and I've always kind of been one to take on physical challenges, and I thought, I'm just going to put my name in the lottery and see if I get in, and lo and behold, I got in this year.
Be careful what you wish for, right?
I know, exactly.
So how did you start training for it?
So I found out in early April that I got in the race, and it was just kind of, okay, I do a lot of yoga, and I hadn't been out on the mountains yet, and I really needed to get out on the mountains. And that was a time of year where the weather was great to get out on the mountains. So I have a full-time job and a 15-month-old, so I get out when I can, and yeah, I'm gonna do the best that I can. I don't have lofty expectations for myself. I want to finish.
So what did you learn?
What did I learn? Mount Marathon is so unique because there is not one single path up. So I was really, really nervous when I found out I got in. It was like shock, surprise, and then kind of a little bit of fear. But I went with a race veteran who showed me the mountain, and I found out if you prepare for Mount Marathon by getting to know Mount Marathon, you're going to be prepared for the race. There's scree, there's snow, there's roots, there's mud, there's all these different elements, and there's no one pass. You really have to know which way to turn, which way to go on the mountain. And I did the mountain enough that I felt confident.
Now, what is scree?
Scree is little tiny rocks that get stuck in your shoes, and it's soft and forgiving, so when you're going down the mountain, you can really truck down and go really fast. But you got to be careful, knees bent. There's all this strategy about running the mountain race that I never knew about until I started training.
So did you have any mishaps in your training?
I did. I just had a mishap the weekend before the race. I went up with my dog to the top of Rainbow Peak, and I went down the backside because my dog hates that scree, and I thought it was a real trail, and it was a sheep trail, and by the time I found out, I thought I would bushwhack, and it was just a really not a good decision. I was by myself with my dog, and I ended up losing my dog. I got him back, and everything's okay at the end of the day, but it really taught me the lesson that the Alaska Wild is no joke, and you can be right off the path, and it's not safe, and there's bears, and didn't run into a bear, but just really taught me to respect the wilderness.
Boy, both the training and the running of the race are dangerous. So now that you have trained for this, What kind of an appreciation do you have for what the other runners go through?
Wow, I mean, I can't even come close to their time, so I can't even imagine the real training that's involved for getting up and down the mountain. And I do have a whole new level of respect. You see it, but now to know exactly what they do. But I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be unsafe, because some of the athletes literally fling their bodies down the mountain, and I'm going to make smart choices. There's all these different ways to go, but you can get injured on Mount Marathon.
Well, one thing, people in this newsroom have a lot of respect for your physical conditioning, because we've all heard the story about how you were just 4 days from delivering your baby and you were out hiking. So we know you're tough. So how do you expect to do?
I want to finish. I don't know, it's my first time running the race, so the top half would be great, but I don't have a lofty goal. I just want to finish the race and finish it smart, and when I cross the finish line, hug my daughter and hug my husband and not get injured. That's my goal.
Good goal. Well, we'll be looking forward to finding out how you do. Well, up next, we are going to learn more about the race's history by talking to some folks who are experienced at running it.
Let's never forget the cost of freedom or take it for granted. As a veteran, you are entitled to certain benefits when you pass. To learn what benefits are included, ask for our free Veterans Information Kit and learn how a smart plan can provide all of the things that are not covered. We all enjoy the freedom you provide for us, and we thank you for your service. This is Dominic Cassara, owner and operator of the Cremation Society of Alaska. Call us at 277-2777 or visit our website.
At Spenard Builders Supply, we're thinking about color a little differently. Our Voice of Color touchscreens help you select just the right shade to bring your ideas to life and life to your ideas. Discover your perfect color. Find it at SBS. Interior and exterior paint, quality supplies, and unmatched expertise. Shop today's Double Dip sale with rebates on paints and stains, saving you up to $130 on your paint project, only at SBS.
At ConocoPhillips, we invest in projects that focus on the environment, projects that keep our creeks and waterways healthy, improve salmon habitat, renovate nature trails, and enhance land and water for migratory birds and fish. Every year, we help protect and provide access to some of the most spectacular places in the world. Conservation, it's a big part of who we are. We're ConocoPhillips, Alaska's oil and gas company.
I've lived in Alaska since I was 9. I've spent 2/3 of my life in Alaska, and I want to spend the rest of my life in Alaska. There's so much going on in Anchorage, there's so much going on in Alaska that you want to make sure that the news that you're watching is giving you the most accurate picture of what's happening in your community. What's important to KTVA is what's important to Alaska. I really appreciate that when something is going on in the community, KTVA is always there.
Runners come year after year to Mount Marathon. It's as if it's their own personal frontier to conquer. And joining us to give us insights into why this race has become a passion for so many, Clint McCool and Holly Brooks, who have run this race numerous times. We have seen multi-generations start to run this race, you know, from fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, grandchildren. What does that say about the race?
Well, I would say it speaks to the tradition and again, the sense of community. The mountain running community is very close-knit. I mean, we all know each other. We're all friends. Some of us would consider each other family. And there are many multi-generational families in the race. The Kopsaks, the Martinsons, the Foldaggers, and this year the Prokoskis are both going to be in the race. So it's people wanting to pass on the tradition, and it's mothers and fathers running with their children and inspiring their children.
Well, it's really cool. You have the junior race at 9, you have the women's race at 11, and the men's race at 3. And some of these families have family members in each race. And so Mount Marathon is really the culmination of the lifestyle. And, you know, in order to kind of take on Mount Marathon and race Mount Marathon, ideally you're training for it, you know, so you're getting out and you're being active every day, you're making healthy choices with your eating, you know, and kind of parents are modeling that behavior to their kids.
What is the benefit to Alaskans as citizens of our state to have a race like this?
You know, I think the thing that's really special about the race is it is said to be the second oldest race in the country behind the Boston Marathon. So that definitely makes it the oldest mountain race in the country. And in a lot of ways, I think Mount Marathon epitomizes Alaska. You know, there's one rule. It's to, well, a couple of rules. To start at the start line, go, you know, 3,022 feet up the mountain, go around the rock with the flag on it, come down and finish, you know, on Main Street. And you know, the race is raw. People really kind of show their true colors, lots of guts. You know, I think a lot of Alaskans can really identify with that. I think people everywhere can identify with that. And then this year with some of the international runners coming and racing this race, there is going to be a lot of international interest
to see how we measure
race.
up.
Yeah, and so in a lot of ways, it's really putting Alaska on the international stage, if you will.
Well, I guess everybody's been talking about Kilian Jornet, and of course, we will be airing Frontiers after the race has been run, but I still think that people will find it interesting to see and compare notes to what actually happens in the race. Why is Kilian getting so much attention?
Well, he's a tremendous athlete, arguably ranked probably top mountain runner in the world, and he's got numerous records. He's won races all over the world, so many that I couldn't even keep track of them. He's a physical specimen, and we're all interested to see what he can do. He's definitely the wild card on that day. You certainly have to be looking at him as possibly to take it all. But that being said, we've got some local runners that are absolutely doing some astounding things this year, and their knowledge of the mountain, the local knowledge, is going to make a big difference in the race.
Clint and I had a chance to meet him on Monday night at an event at Skinny Raven, and I've never met him in person. We're both Solomon athletes, and so I've been following him, and I know quite a bit about his career. But just one example that kind of epitomizes his talent is that he was actually in Alaska earlier this spring and completed a successful speed ascent on Denali, 11 hours, 40 minutes, and he took maybe 300 calories and half a liter of water with him for climbing Denali. So I think that says a lot about his talent and just how much of an anomaly he truly is.
300 calories is a snack.
That's a snack, you know. That's like something I'd eat from my walk from here to the studio to back to my car.
Yeah.
But Kilian will take that up Denali.
That's the equivalent of 2 bananas.
So what does that say about his conditioning?
Well, it says that he's pretty phenomenal. He's known for running for hours at a time in his own territory with no food at all, and just eating berries and such along the way. And the ability to go for 12 hours burning that kind of, at that intensity, burning those kinds of calories and taking such little food and water with you it's unheard of. I mean, I can't even imagine it.
It seems like this race has so many variables. You've got the weather, you also have you know, just the conditioning of the athletes in any given year. So can you talk about how that plays into this?
Yeah, knowledge of the mountain is huge. Kilian may be the most talented athlete in the field, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to win. We have many really talented local runners that have a great deal of experience on the mountain. And because the mountain itself, as Holly said, there's only one real rule, and that is to start from downtown, get to the top, and come back. But down that mountain, there are literally hundreds of variations of trails, or what I prefer to think of it as dancing with the mountain. So that's what kind of keeps me going.
What do you mean by dancing with the mountain?
I use that term because when you race Mount Marathon, since there isn't any one direct trail, you have to choreograph your route. You have to find exactly which way you want to go. And then on the way down the mountain, it's so extreme and can be so difficult at times that there are what we call problems. And in each of these problems, going down through what's called the gut or the creek bed, those of us that spend a lot of time on the mountain, we actually figure out exactly where we're going to get through that problem. Left foot, right foot, touch here, touch there, push left, jump. And you do the same thing over and over and over again. And you have to do that because come race day, you're going to be doing it at such a speed that you can't slow down and try to figure something out. The steps are actually choreographed, and we'll hit exactly the same steps every single time, because that way you can, come race day, you can be doing it at full speed with no hesitation. And that's what you have to do if you're going to get a top finish.
What do you think about that analogy of the mountain actually kind of being a dance partner?
It is, and you know, it's a dynamic partner. That's one of the allures of the mountain. It's not, you know, a paved 5K course. You know, it changes every year, day to day, hour to hour. You know, it's a different course at 9 o'clock for the juniors and 3 o'clock for the men, and you know, of course, the women
sort
in
of
between.
altered the mountain as they've come down.
Exactly. You know, the rain can soften it up. You know, there are some years where the top of the course actually still has a bunch of snow on it. So you're doing what's called a sitting glissade. It's like you know, you're on your backside and you're literally sliding through the snow. So every year it changes, and you never know really what you're going to get.
What is it about the Mount Marathon race that sort of equalizes things for age groups?
Well, I think it's because this race doesn't necessarily go to the fastest guy all the time. It can sometimes go to the strongest guy or the strongest woman. And in endurance sports such as you know, endurance running and skiing, older shouldn't say older, but more seasoned people necessarily are still keeping their strength. You know, in an endurance sport, a lot of endurance athletes don't really even reach their peak until their late 30s. And in this race, there are guys that are well into their 40s that are still top contenders running against people that are half their age, and women that are running against people half their age, or even less in the case of someone like Nancy Pease, who's, you know, the reigning record holder. And she's in her 50s now and will still be beating almost every 20-year-old in the field.
But you do have your young guns coming up out of the junior race. Mm-hmm. And I understand that one long-time veteran junior racer is definitely in the spotlight this year.
Well, I think everyone's eyes will be on Allie Ostrander, and last year I was really inspired and took some of that inspiration into my own race, but she won the junior race.
And that's both male and female.
That race is co-ed. You know, the senior race is separated into women only and men only, but at 9 o'clock, the girls and the boys, they start together. And I don't believe she was the first one at the top, but she was the first one at the finish line. And she is an amazing talent. I think she has the top 2-mile time in the entire country. And so
as a runner,
as a track and field runner, and she has a full scholarship for running next year in college. But this will be her first year taking on the senior event. The juniors only go to the halfway mark and come back down. And so this will be her first trip all the way up the mountain. And I think that there are a lot of people that are really excited to see what she can do.
Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us and giving us a feel, sort of those of us who don't get out and about, that armchair experience of being part of the race. And again, you know, the purpose of this show was to enhance your appreciation of Mount Marathon and look at how the race itself is pushing into new frontiers in the sport of running. Now, we did have a full crew at the race, and we carried it live on the 4th of July, so for all the results of the race, visit KTVA.com. You'll enjoy comparing notes from what we have said here to the outcome of the race. And still ahead, you know, there is the marathon of politics, and a perennial competitor has landed the job of Anchorage mayor. And we have mayors from the past weigh in on what's ahead for Mayor Ethan Berkowitz.
With the new KTVA 11 News live stream, you can stay up to date on Alaska news, sports, and weather every day from anywhere.
In Homer.
In Tanana.
From the capital.
At Denali Base Camp.
From McGrath.
Here at the Port of Anchorage.
In Kodiak.
Here on Prince of Wales Island.
From Barrow.
In North Pole.
And we mean anywhere.
Portland.
From Boise.
From Denver.
In Washington, D.C.
From Reykjavik, Iceland.
From Afghanistan.
At 35,000 feet above South Dakota.
Try it today at ktva.com/stream.
We have a story of 27 families that put 18 months of their lives into building a village, a home for themselves and their future. Our Inupiat culture goes back thousands of years, carried by a strong sense of community. Our relationship with our natural surroundings is at the heart of our culture. By investing in future generations through development that is balanced with the love of our land, the Guppi Corporation brings together traditions of the past with visions of the future.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
Get to know Modern Family.
Very different. Jay's from the city. He has a big business. Jay, I called your secretary and told her to order you some crackers and those cheeses that you like, the tiny little ones.
What the hell is this?
I told you, Jay. I called your secretary and told her to order you a box of baby cheeses.
Modern Family.
Anchorage has a new mayor this week.
I solemnly swear that I will support and defend.
I solemnly swear that I will support and defend.
Jack Roderick, Anchorage's oldest living mayor, administered the oath of office to Ethan Berkowitz. Earlier, he had some advice for the new mayor. Make sure he keeps opportunity alive for young people.
This is a town of opportunity for young people. I think they can do more up here than somewhere else.
Next week, the frontiers of a new job for Mayor Ethan Berkowitz. And finally, we want to give thanks to the Mount Marathon runners for inspiring us as they pushed into new frontiers this July 4th. And from all of us here at KTVA, have a safe and happy holiday weekend.